The organ music swelled, but as Bethany started her walk down the aisle on her wedding day, her loyal German shepherd, Max, planted himself firmly in her path. A hush fell over the assembled guests. For over a decade, Max had been her shadow, her confidant. Initially, she brushed it off, thinking he was just a bundle of nerves caught up in the day's excitement. Little did she know, the truth she was about to uncover would redefine her very understanding of love itself. Bethany paused, the silk of her gown rippling around her as Max leaned heavily against her legs. There was no playful bark, no anxious whine, just an intense, unwavering stare that sent a chill racing down her spine. "Max, come on, buddy," she coaxed, her voice a gentle whisper as she tried to guide him forward. He wouldn't budge. The murmurs in the crowd grew louder, more insistent. Her father, his face etched with concern, reached for Max's leash. "Bethany, honey, we need to get this show on the road," he urged, his voice tight. A low growl rumbled in Max's chest, a sound so unlike him that even her father hesitated. Bethany's heart sank like a stone. Max never growled. Kneeling, her exquisite dress pooling around her, she gently cupped his face in her hands. "What's wrong, boy?" she murmured, her fingers tracing the silver hairs around his muzzle. Then she saw it, the shallow, rapid breaths, the trembling in his legs. A gasp caught in her throat. Something was terribly, terribly wrong. "Bethany," her mother called out, her voice laced with a sharp impatience. "We are running out of time. What on earth is going on?" But Bethany heard nothing, saw nothing, except Max, her steadfast companion through every high and crushing low. Leaning close, she pressed her forehead against his, whispering, "I'm here, Max. I'm not going anywhere without you." As she helped him to sit, his weight pressed heavily against her. The guests erupted in hushed confusion, but their words faded into a distant hum. In Max's amber eyes she saw a plea, a silent message that transcended words. "Max," she whispered again, her voice cracking with emotion. Her fiancé, Lucas Bennett, stepped forward, his brow furrowed with worry. "Bethany, is everything all right?" he asked softly. She glanced up at Lucas, then back at Max, a knot of dread tightening in her chest. Her father crouched beside her, his voice strained. "Bethany, we really can't wait any longer. The ceremony has to begin." The words barely registered as her mind flooded with memories. Max as a clumsy, scruffy puppy, shivering during a summer thunderstorm. Max standing guard outside her bedroom door after her first heartbreak. Max sprinting through the park the day she met Lucas. He had always been her anchor, her rock, and now something was desperately wrong. Without a moment's hesitation, she made her decision. "We're going to the vet," she announced, her voice ringing with a newfound resolve. Her mother gasped, aghast. "The wedding can wait," she added, rising to her feet and gathering her skirts. Turning to Lucas, her voice softened. "I'm so sorry, but I can't leave him like this." Lucas didn't flinch. "You don't need to apologize," he said, his eyes full of understanding. "Max comes first." A wave of stunned silence washed over the guests as Bethany, still radiant in her wedding gown, gently led Max toward her car. Lucas followed close behind, already on the phone with the emergency vet, while her father stepped forward to explain the situation to the bewildered minister. That night, instead of a grand reception with twinkling lights, a packed dance floor, and the clinking of champagne glasses, Bethany and Lucas found themselves sitting on the floor of their cozy apartment, still dressed in their wedding attire. Their fingers were intertwined, bathed in the soft, dim glow of the living room lamp. Between them, Max lay contentedly, his head resting gently in Bethany's lap, his warm presence filling the space with a quiet, profound peace. They shared takeout Chinese food, the familiar scent of soy sauce and warm noodles wrapping around them like a comforting embrace. Each bite felt like a celebration, not of the chaos that had upended their carefully laid plans, but of the newfound clarity it had brought. It was a celebration of the love that truly mattered, the love that transcended fancy decorations and elaborate guest lists. Lucas turned to Bethany, his gaze filled with a deep, abiding admiration. Love was etched into every line of his face. "This wasn't the perfect wedding," he said softly, his voice laced with both amusement and deep emotion, "but it was perfect for us." Bethany smiled, running her fingers gently through Max's soft fur. Her heart overflowed with a gratitude she couldn't quite articulate. "Because of him," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "He reminded us what love really means." The months that followed their unconventional wedding were a bittersweet blend of joy and heartache, a delicate dance between gratitude and the quiet ache of what was inevitably to come. Max's medication gave them precious, fleeting moments of normalcy. On good days, he was his old self, trotting faithfully behind Bethany, wagging his tail enthusiastically for Lucas, and relishing their familiar walks in the park where their love story had begun. But the tough days arrived, too, casting a long shadow over their happiness. Some mornings, Max struggled to rise, his legs weak and trembling. On those days, Bethany and Lucas adapted, staying close to him, showering him with affection, and cherishing every precious moment as if it were their last. One chilly winter night, Bethany sat on the kitchen floor, cradling Max's head in her lap, his warmth a comforting presence against the cold tile. In the background, Lucas was quietly preparing a pot of chamomile tea, his movements gentle and deliberate. Bethany whispered, her voice thick with emotion, "You've been the best boy, Max, the very best." A moment later, Lucas stepped into the room, carrying 2 steaming mugs. He took in the scene, his expression softening as he settled down beside her. "How's he doing?" he asked, his voice low and careful. Bethany exhaled, offering a faint smile. "He's tired," she admitted, stroking Max's ears. "But he's here, and that's what matters." Lucas wrapped a comforting arm around her shoulders, pressing a tender kiss to the side of her head. "He's a fighter," he murmured, his voice full of admiration, "just like you." His words settled in her chest, bittersweet and true. As the weeks passed, the good days became fewer, their fleeting joy overshadowed by the growing number of difficult ones. And then, on a soft spring morning, Max let them know that it was time. The sky was clear, the air warm and gentle, as if nature itself had granted them a perfect farewell. They spent the day in their backyard under the shade of the blooming dogwood trees, giving Max all the love he had given them so unconditionally. They fed him his favorite treats, a juicy piece of steak, a spoonful of peanut butter, whispered endless thank yous and I love yous, and held him close, their hands stroking his soft fur, their voices the last sounds he heard as he peacefully drifted off into his final sleep. That evening the house felt unbearably quiet, the silence amplified by the absence of Max's gentle snores. Bethany sat at the kitchen table, staring at his empty bed, feeling the emptiness as a hollow ache in her chest. Lucas, ever the steady presence, placed a gentle hand on her shoulder, his touch a silent reassurance. "You gave him a life," he began softly, his words trailing off as he sought to comfort her. Meanwhile, in another story, Reverend Thompson's voice resonated with genuine warmth and compassion as he suggested, "We can hold the ceremony here with Buster by your side." Amelia's heart clenched, a tidal wave of emotion threatening to overwhelm her. She turned towards Daniel, her eyes searching his face, desperately seeking any flicker of hesitation or shadow of doubt. This wasn't in the meticulously planned itinerary, the vision they had nurtured for months, yet in that moment it felt undeniably right. Daniel met her gaze, his own eyes mirroring her swirling emotions, yet radiating an unwavering love and understanding. A faint smile played on his lips. "It's not the wedding we planned, my love," he said softly, his voice a gentle caress, "but somehow it feels perfect. It feels like the most authentic way to start our life together." A sob escaped Amelia's lips, quickly followed by a watery laugh. The weight of the moment, the sheer emotional intensity of the day pressed down on her chest, making it difficult to breathe. She nodded, her grip tightening on Daniel's hand, drawing strength from his unwavering presence. "Let's do it," she whispered, her voice trembling with a mixture of grief and joy. "Let's get married right here, right now, with Buster as our witness." And so, within the hallowed, albeit unconventional, walls of the animal clinic, a transformation began. Chloe, ever the resourceful and devoted best friend, sprang into action, orchestrating the impromptu wedding with a grace and efficiency that belied the chaotic circumstances. She carefully adjusted Amelia's dress, smoothing out the wrinkles and attempting to camouflage the tear stains that now adorned the delicate lace. Daniel, with a sheepish grin, straightened his slightly rumpled tuxedo, accepting a bolstering pat on the back from Amelia's father. Despite the gravity of the situation, a sense of camaraderie and shared purpose filled the air, forging an unbreakable bond between everyone present. Reverend Thompson, his demeanor radiating serenity, took his place before them, his presence a calming anchor amidst the swirling emotions. And at their feet, lying comfortably on a soft plush blanket, Dr. Peterson had thoughtfully provided, was Buster, his tail thumping weakly against the cool tile floor, as if he somehow understood the profound significance of the moment. As Amelia and Daniel exchanged their vows, their voices thick with emotion, their hands clasped tightly together, a sense of profound peace settled over Amelia's soul. It wasn't the fairy tale wedding she had envisioned since childhood, the grand affair meticulously planned and flawlessly executed, but surrounded by the people who loved her most, witnessing her commitment to Daniel, and above all with Buster by her side, it felt infinitely more real, more meaningful, more sacred. It was a raw, honest testament to the enduring power of love, loyalty, and the unbreakable bond that could exist between a woman and her dog. When Reverend Thompson, with a heartfelt smile, finally pronounced them husband and wife, a collective sigh of relief swept through the room. And then, as if on cue, Buster let out a soft, contented sigh, a quiet, approving woof that resonated with a depth of feeling that transcended words, drawing a chorus of laughter and tears from everyone present. That night, discarding the notion of a lavish reception with champagne toasts, swirling dance partners, and the obligatory cutting of the cake, Amelia and Daniel found themselves sitting cross-legged on the worn rug in their cozy living room, still adorned in their wedding finery. The only illumination came from the soft glow of a nearby lamp, casting long, dancing shadows on the walls. Their fingers were intertwined, a silent symbol of their unwavering commitment. Nestled comfortably in Amelia's lap was Buster, his breathing shallow but peaceful. His presence was a tangible reminder of the journey that had brought them to this extraordinary moment. They shared a simple meal of takeout pizza, savoring each bite with a gratitude that stemmed from the depths of their souls. The aroma of warm cheese and savory toppings filled the air, mingling with the lingering scent of flowers from the makeshift ceremony. Daniel turned. In the weeks and months that followed Buster's passing, Amelia and Daniel honored his memory, not just with spoken words, but with the way they chose to live their lives. They found comfort in reminiscing about his quirky habits, his goofy grin, and the countless moments of joy he had brought into their home. They laughed at his antics, the way he would chase his tail in circles until he was dizzy, and the way he would sing along to Amelia's off-key renditions of her favorite songs. Bus's collar remained on the shelf by the door, a tangible reminder of his constant presence. His spirit lingered in the spaces he had filled, in the well-worn spots on the couch where he loved to nap, in the familiar routines they had established around him. The quiet, unconditional love he had bestowed upon them had left an indelible mark on their hearts, shaping them in ways they were only beginning to understand. One quiet afternoon, as Amelia was sorting through old photographs, a task she had been putting off for weeks, her fingers paused on an image from their wedding day, captured within the sterile yet sacred confines of the animal clinic. It was a candid shot, a stolen moment that now felt even more profound than it had at the time. She and Daniel were exchanging their vows, their faces radiant with love and commitment, but their gazes were not fixed on each other. Instead, they were both looking down at Buster, who lay patiently at their feet, watching them with an unwavering devotion that only a dog could possess. A lump formed in Amelia's throat, and tears welled in her eyes as she gently traced the outline of Buster's furry head in the photograph. "Do you think he knew?" she asked softly, her voice barely a whisper, her question directed more to herself than to Daniel. "Do you think he knew how much we loved him? How much he meant to us?" Daniel, who had been quietly reading in his armchair, looked up at the picture, then turned to meet Amelia's gaze. He reached out, taking her hand in his touch a silent reassurance. He nodded, his eyes filled with a deep, knowing understanding. "He knew, Amy," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "He knew exactly what he was doing. He reminded us what mattered most: love, loyalty, and the importance of cherishing every single moment." Months later, on a quiet, rainy afternoon that mirrored the somber mood in their hearts, Amelia and Daniel found themselves walking through the familiar, slightly echoing halls of the local animal shelter. It was the very same shelter where, years ago, Amelia had first laid eyes on Buster, the place where their lives had been forever changed. The scent of clean straw and gentle rain mingled in the air, mingling with the soft sounds of dogs barking and stirring restlessly in their kennels. Amelia's heart ached with a longing she couldn't quite articulate, a deep-seated desire to fill the void that Buster had left behind. She wasn't looking to replace him, of course. No dog could ever truly take his place. But the absence of his warm presence, the silence that now permeated their home, had left a space in her heart that felt ready to be filled with love again. As they slowly passed kennel after kennel, the hopeful, pleading eyes of countless dogs met theirs, each one searching for a home, a family, a second chance at a life filled with love and security. Amelia's heart ached for each and every one of them. And then, as they reached the very end of the row, Amelia's steps faltered, her breath caught in her throat. Curled up on a well-worn blanket in the last kennel, his golden fur peppered with silver around his muzzle, was a senior golden retriever. His deep brown eyes, calm and knowing, held a spark of intelligence that resonated deep within Amelia's soul. He lifted his head slightly, resting his chin gently on his paws, as if he had been waiting for them, as if he had always known this moment would come. Their eyes met, and in that instant Amelia felt it, that same indescribable connection, that same spark of recognition she had felt all those years ago when she first met Buster. A silent understanding passed between them, a quiet acknowledgement that transcended words. Tears streamed down Amelia's face as she reached out, her hand trembling with emotion. "This is him," she whispered, her voice choked with sobs. "He's the one." Daniel knelt beside her, his arm wrapping around her shoulders, offering silent support. He reached out his other hand, gently scratching behind the dog's ears. The dog, whose name was Lucky according to the tag on his kennel, let out a slow, contented sigh, his tail giving a small, lazy wag. In that moment, there was no doubt in either of their minds. Daniel smiled, his eyes filled with love and compassion. "Welcome to the family, buddy," he said softly, his voice thick with emotion. "Thank you for being part of our journey. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and share this story with your loved ones to spread the inspiration."